Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Elevated DNS back again with another episode of Beer Ventures. And on this episode, we're actually starting a new series. This series is going to be called Beers in Business. And just like it says, we're going to be drinking some beers and we're going to be talking business. And it's not just going to be business with anybody. It's going to be with fellow entrepreneurs, either locally or people that we've met online through social media, Instagram, Facebook, and we've seen grow over time. On today's episode, we got Ro, aka Chief. I've seen this guy from the beginning, and I'd love for him to tell you guys a little bit about where he's at, how he got here, and maybe his secret to success. So tell us about who you are and what you do.
So my name is Rolando, on Instagram as Chief Barber. I'm a barber. I also do marketing, branding, graphic design, and just an all-around creative. I try to focus on breaking the norm and creating something all the time is where I'm catching my eye.
Yeah, stay moving, right?
Always.
Because I know that's something you say. I just stay hustling all the time. Hustle.
Yes.
And I think just seeing your posts, they motivate me to do better. They motivate me to motivate other people too. It's because it can't just end at us. We got to keep pushing that positive energy.
That's the biggest part is when you do something good. And someone told me once, right? Kobe was a great player, not because Kobe was great, but because his whole team was great because of him. And that's what throws out people who are good and then the greats. So my goal has always been to be the greatest. And a lot of people want to be great, and to be great, you have to influence enough people and spread that same energy and knowledge.
Exactly, man. That's good to hear, and I'm excited to hear more about where you're at in your business and everything. But let's just jump straight into the beer. Today I got two brews. I got this one by Logsoon Farmhouse Ales. This is a Funk Soul Beretta Tart Farmhouse Ale. So this is a sour ale from Washington. Pretty cool. And then over here on the turntable, we got one from Hopworks. This is called Cactus Atticus, and this is another sour with prickly pear. Just take a look at these real quick. Are you a beer drinker at all, or?
Personally, no. Will I drink a beer? Yes. It's never. I'm a gin guy, I guess, if it comes to alcohol.
I love gin.
But as far as beer, I haven't dove into that beer lifestyle yet.
Well, today's gonna be the start.
Day, yeah.
So today you'll figure out that there's more than just Budweiser, Bud Light, and all the normal stuff that we already know. So let's go ahead and pop one of these open. Which one do you want to try first?
Let's start with this one.
That one, okay. This is the one with the prickly pear. We'll put this one on the stand. And while I mix this one up a little bit, tell me briefly about what it took to get to where you are right now.
It's taken a lot of work. It's still to this day, my work days, if I work less than 12 hours, not that I wasted time, but it has to be something important. It's taken a true dedication and discipline to be able to be up at 5, 6 in the morning and work till 11, 10. And not always working for the dollar. A lot of times it's working
for the passion.
Yeah, for the passion, networking, doing things for free, doing things, just talking to people, trying to build a relationship. It's taken a lot of that and a lot of self-discipline to put myself in the position where I'm at. And I feel real humbled
That's cool.
I feel really humbled by the fact that I know how much it took to get here, and the fact that I've maintained my own self-image without ever having to change who I am.
And you're completely right. You're not lying about the fact that you have been the same person. I mean, I remember back when we were 16 and you were rapping, you still had the same work ethic, I'd say, or the same hustle back then that you do right now. Everything's just stay moving, keep pushing. And I think that's a reason why lots of people look to you for with their questions when it comes to jumping into a new venture or starting a new business or whatever it comes to. I'm sure you get a lot of questions from people.
I'll be in my kids laugh about it, right? Because per day I'm getting a minimum of 5 to 8 calls a day just for advice. And sometimes I ask myself, like, how do I know this? And the only way I've really grown to become knowledgeable per se is the endless amounts of failed attempts at something, and learning every time I failed has made me just this wise person that's still growing, but I used to idolize certain people because they knew so much, and now I understand that those people that knew so much failed just as much as I failed, and I feel okay about certain things because it's always a lesson to be learned in anything we do.
Yeah, like lots of people like to put others on pedestals, like unimaginable lengths to get to where they're at is what it seems like. But everybody's normal. Everybody has worked for what they have, or they've pushed, or they got to maintain that level that they're at. And you know, while we're at it, let's go ahead and get our beers real quick. Let's give it a sniff test.
All right, so what am I doing here?
You're just smelling it. Literally describe the first things that come to your mind when you smell the beer.
There's a tanginess, and it's a soft flavor.
Does it smell like beer to you, or does it not?
It smells. I can smell the beer, but there's a little extra in there, like a tanginess to it.
To me, sours smell like really hot bed breath for some reason. But that's just the way I describe it. I'm weird.
I would say it smells like a what do you call those, lemon heads?
Oh yeah.
It smells like a lemon head, or it gives me that same feeling a lemon head would give me.
Let's go ahead and give it a taste, man. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, that's good.
Ooh, that's a sour one, but it's not overpoweringly sour. That's actually really good. This is the Cactus Atticus by Hopworks. So let's move on. So far, you like the beer, right?
Oh, this is.
And you're not a beer drinker.
No, this is amazing. I don't know. Is this a beer guy beer?
I would say most like really into beer people would probably scoff at this because lots of them don't like sours. They don't consider them real beers. Gotcha. Just because they're not hoppy, but they're still a beer, still alcohol, still brewed the same way, you know.
This is amazing.
Good, awesome. I'm glad you like it. Can't wait till we get into the second one. While we're at it, let's see. Are you proud of where you're at? Or do you feel you should be in a different position? Do you feel you should be in a higher position than where you are? Or do you look back and do you say, if only I would have done this differently, I would have been somewhere better?
I'm extremely proud of everything I've done, right? My issue with myself, because I'm my worst critic
always, is
my problem, and what I faced over the last 6 months to a year is I'm mad that I've let fear hold me back from attempting things. So am I mad at where I'm at? No. Do I feel like I deserve to be where I'm at? Absolutely. Should I be higher? No, because that fear held me back. And when I'm teaching a student or talking to an individual, my biggest thing now is like, you cannot have any fear in your heart. So would I be at a higher pedestal had I not had fear? Absolutely. Do I feel like I need to be there now? No, because that fear has held me back. Until I'm able to lose that,
and it's a learning process. It's not just like, okay, I get rid of the fear and that's it.
Yeah.
And you got to learn to look at the safety nets that are in place in life.
Yeah.
I mean, we got our parents, we got our friends, we got insurance, we got, we got to learn to trust what we've built around us to catch us if we don't make it. But then we also can't be too scared that we don't take that jump for the risk that might pay off in the end. You never know.
The one of the biggest lessons I've got this past year is, as long as there's food on the table, or food in the fridge and a roof over my head, everything else I'm taking the risk.
You're already better off than I'd say 50% of people on Earth at this point.
So at that point, I'm taking every risk possible with no fear of judgment. Fear of judgment is probably the biggest holdback in my personal opinion.
For everybody, for anything.
I won't do something because it might come out this way. And I've learned that at the end of the day, people are going to talk shit regardless.
People are going to judge you regardless.
So it's like, fuck it. Like, just do what you need to do. And I've seen the progression since I've cut the fear out, the progression from January to, what are we in, July? What I've done in those 7 months, I've done more in those 7 months that I did in the past 7 years based on the lack of fear alone.
And what pushed that to happen in the last 7 months?
I surround myself with people who I find very either progressive or fearless, and I've studied people. That's my biggest thing. So as a barber, I interact with 1 million humans a day, right? And I've learned to study people. So this last year, in December, right? I was studying myself, and I'm like, yo, why am I not doing what I feel I should be doing? And there's two barbers in particular, right? One's Jesse, another one's Jonathan. When I had these conversations with them about how you need to be fearless and putting yourself out there, it opened up my eyes to what they've done in a small amount of time because they do not give a fuck about anyone's thoughts. And it pushed me like, all right, like, if you're gonna get there, you have to stop caring.
Yeah.
And once I stopped caring, I just seen a catapult of energy coming. Even through coronavirus, the pandemic, the rise has been steady and progressive.
That's amazing to hear, because if I remember correctly, right at the beginning of this pandemic, you hit me up and you were pretty scared of the outcome of what was going to happen to your business, because obviously salons and barbers and theaters, I mean, they were all together in the clump of businesses that were shut down and deemed non-essential. So I can't imagine not only fear, but stress and pressure that you felt when all this came down. So how'd you ride that out, and how'd you come out above it, if you feel that you have?
So at the beginning of the pandemic, they told us we had to close down, right? And I freaked out, right? So I worked 16-hour days. So the withdrawal alone from work, like, yo, I'm not gonna be able, I don't have anything to do, created an instant fear. So working is an addiction to me.
Yeah.
And not knowing what was next was making me panic.
A good addiction.
Yeah, a good addiction. When I figured out that there was nothing I could do about it and I had to adapt to my environment, is when I finally calmed down. And mind you, I went through like a super low point week 1 of our lockdown here in California. And once I pulled myself out, the weirdest thing is what pulled me out of that low point was a song by Juice WRLD called, what's it called? It's Bandit. Nothing to do with motivation, strictly talking about drugs, but the energy it gave me was like, all right, bro, snap out of it. How are you gonna feed these kids that you have? And it was like, adapt. If you can't cut hair, what other sources of income can you do? And that's where my skill sets that I've acquired throughout the years really helped me get to another level, from the graphic design to the video, the photography that I hit you up for. And it advanced me so much. In January, I got my camera stolen, right? Mm-hmm. And I took the chance and bought a camera during quarantine.
That hurts just to think about.
Yeah, that one was a tough one. Once I bought the camera, the second time around, I'm grateful for my camera. Something that I would leave in my bag before is consistently in use now, because I've learned there's so much, to appreciate it, and that there's so much more than just cutting hair. I can always create a brand image, and that's what, like, if you look at Nike, they're not consistently running or in sports, but they're consistently creating a brand image. And that's, as a self-made entrepreneur, I have to consistently keep creating my business and my branding and my imaging.
That's cool. I think our viewers are really gonna like getting some insight on what it takes to bring your business up and how to get through a pandemic and how to keep pushing. Let's get back to the beer for a second. What kind of beers have you had?
Bud Lights, Michelob. Do you have your corporate beers?
So you haven't had any like craft beers before?
So I did. I worked at a barber shop like 9 months that had a bar. So we tried, what was it called? It was like Bourbon County, and they sell it one time a year till they sell out.
Yeah.
And it was disgusting to me.
What was disgusting about it?
It was a stout.
Oh.
So it was very coffee-ish, and it was warm.
But you like coffee?
I like coffee. I don't like warm coffee. And
the stout was warm when you
tried it? It was warm because the guy that dropped it off told us to sip it warm and sip it in a cup like this, take a little bit.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't, I'm a cold guy.
Well, some knowledge for you when it comes to stouts and porters. Those are the darker beers. Those are considered winter beers or cold weather beers. So that's probably why I told you to drink it warm or room temperature.
Room temperature.
But there are stouts and porters that you drink all year round. Like I had a Zanzibar chocolate. It tasted like brownies melted in a beer. It's amazing. So maybe you'll get to try some of those soon. Back to the business. What would be, you can only tell somebody one point. what would be one point of success that you tell people, focus on this and you'll probably make it? I know there's got to be various, keys to success.
So my motto right now, as far as advice giving, and like I said, I get calls all day. The little tips and this just get in. What I always tell people, right, and excuse my language, and I tell this to my kids consistently too, is do what the fuck you want always. And by that I mean, I always tell people there's no rules to this game. We were brought up thinking, or I was raised thinking, like, you have to play the game a certain way. Yeah. And I've learned there's absolutely no rules to the game now. Do what you want. So if you want to create a beer and sell one can for $28, do it. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work. And best case scenario, it's a hit. There's no rules to it. I haven't seen the majority of people that try something never lose, because that lesson that comes with it is priceless.
One thing that I was taught at an early age, I think I was 15 or 16, I had this investor tell me, one of the keys to doing business and being an entrepreneur is knowing you're gonna lose, is not expecting anything in the end. That way, when you've made even half of a step in progress, it's a win-win regardless. So when you go in and you invest $30,000 in something, just don't expect those $30,000 back. That way, whenever something does work, it's still a win-win for you. I mean, that's what investing is, taking the risks and putting your money where your mouth is.
Biggest downside or the part that people don't understand is that when you're jumping into entrepreneurship or any type of business, to get the money back, it's a lot of work, and that's where people break. Recently, I was talking to an individual and I was telling them, when you're working a job and you're not taking the risk, it feels secure, but at the same time, with entrepreneurship, you're able to sell something. I have the possibility of making $600 in a 6-hour period, when at a regular job, no one's making $600 in a 6-hour period.
Except for the owners.
Exactly. Like, and you look at Amazon, you look at Walmart, Costco, all these businesses, someone took a risk and opened it up and just ran with it. And you look at their business model, right? We look at Amazon alone, they did what they wanted the whole time. Like, he sold books, and then he was like, I'm gonna add this, I'm gonna add this. And now they're selling from A to Z. You look at Walmart, the same thing. From furniture to everything. Costco, then you look at Apple alone, right? He said, I want to put a computer in your hand. Someone told me this, right? Older man, he was like, if you would have told me in the 90s to go through a drive-through to get coffee, I would have told you you're stupid.
Yeah.
And you look at Starbucks, it's the most, I refuse to get out the car just for coffee now. It's the norm to me, but they did what they wanted and they ran with it and made it normal.
Working. Yeah.
In my industry, for a long time, we depended on walk-ins, and appointments just felt so much more convenient, and people were telling me you can't run a business with only appointments. I haven't taken a single walk-in since 2015.
Dang.
And it's only been appointment, and this was something that was not good. Yeah, people, you can't do it, no one can do it.
It's not gonna work, you're gonna fail.
Exactly, and I've only, up until November, I've worked in private studios since 2015 without a single walk-in coming in and feeding my children. But I did what I wanted. I wanted a certain thing, and I did it. And I always tell people, do what you want. If you don't, even if I tell you something, and I'm like, oh, it might not work. If you want to do it, run with it. Like, there's no rules to this, none at all.
That's awesome. On that note, we're gonna take a break here. Let's go ahead and down this real quick. When we come back, we have a few more questions for Chief over here. Hopefully we get a little deeper insight and we'll have our next beer. Stay tuned. Hey, what's up guys? Back for our second half of Beers and Business with Chief over here on my right. How did you like the beer after all?
It's amazing. I'm buzzed. I'm a lightweight. And,
I'm pretty sure everybody can see it in the video.
Yeah. Mind you, I am tired, but yeah, definitely smacked me right in the face.
That's craft beer for you. This is only a 5.3% ABV beer. So pretty low on the scale of what we usually drink, and this was still enough to. And what's good about this is high quality, and it's not going to give you a hangover or anything like that. Most craft beer will.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the good thing about craft beer. They don't use corn syrup and all that crap they use.
Oh, so the hangover is minimal.
Yeah, I mean, you could get tore up on these and you'll probably be okay in the morning.
Oh, shit.
But let's get back to business. So right before we went on break, you were talking about having to shed fear to make progress towards your goal. What was one of the biggest fears that you had to get past in order to start your journey?
So one of the biggest fears I had to go through was to stop caring about looking corny, which has always been my worry, right? Like, oh, like you see people do certain things and you hear the shit talking, right?
Yeah.
So to get past that, like, yo, they're gonna talk shit was the biggest thing. And once you do it once, at some point you just stop completely caring. But I used to think like, I don't want to come off corny. I want to come off
Cool.
Like I'm doing this, I've been doing this. And there's so much beauty in starting off corny and then perfecting whatever it is you're doing, where I love it now. I embrace the corniness. Like it's beautiful.
It's part of the process, and it's filming and doing what I'm doing now with the beer ventures has taught me a lot about, you know, at the beginning, everything's gonna be rough. Nothing's gonna be the way that you want it, the way that you envision it. But as long as you try your best to execute it with what you have or with your abilities, trust me, every step becomes easier the more steps you take. It's more practice, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. You get past the shyness, you get past, in my case, I get past trying to have perfect video every time. I think in the first half, the camera wasn't focused on us. But you know what? I gotta get past the fact that it didn't work my way. And the content is there. The content is what matters. That's what people are watching this for. They're not watching this because, dang, it looks so crispy. It's an A7 III. Hundreds of people have this camera. So it's not about that, it's about the content. Just the same with business, it's about the content that's coming out of you, the aspirations, the hustle and all that.
Because you can look at, let's look at the burger business, right? There's McDonald's, there's Burger King. They all have the same infrastructure, right? But then you look at someone like In-N-Out, right? If we're talking content and quality,
Yeah.
the quality is what makes it okay to wait 45 minutes in a line for a burger. When at McDonald's, you wait more than 5 minutes,
You're over it.
you know what I mean? It's not worth the wait, but it's all about the content.
You gotta make it worth it. Right?
Exactly.
And have you learned that? And have you been able to apply that to your business? Or?
I've learned perfectionism is your biggest setback. I've watched so many people try to perfect it, and then other people come out without the perfection, they kill it. And I'm like, that made me aware, like, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be done.
Yeah, exactly. And that takes me back to high school, because that was one of my biggest problems in school, was the fact that I'd start, whether it was an essay or a science project or math homework, I mean, even just writing down numbers. If something smudged, I'd start over.
Really?
Yeah, or if I didn't think my project was unique enough, different enough, and if I wouldn't have given that 100, I would toss it and start over. So I'd end up not finishing my projects. And you're right, as you grow up, you start to learn that it's not about getting it perfect, it's about getting it done. At the best of your abilities, of course. I mean, don't half-ass it. I am so against half-assing. I am so against excuses. You come up with an excuse, I don't even want to talk to you anymore. I mean, that's just the way I am, and I feel like that's the way the real business world is. There's no time for excuses. There's no time to wait till tomorrow. You got to do things now, and you got to get them done.
That's the main thing. And they said doing it to the best of your ability. If that's what you got, and you gave it your all, like, just put it out there. It is what it is. Like, people are gonna either accept it or reject it, but it's let the market decide.
Exactly. Yeah, you tried, right? Just like you're gonna try this next beer. So this is Logsoon Farmhouse Ales. This is Funk Soul Bretta. It says tart farmhouse ale with peaches. Honestly, I don't know why I picked this one up. The can isn't, I mean, that amazing. I think it was a record player because I'm a musician, as some of you guys might know, and this was a sour, so I think both together it made me pick this one out. Let's go ahead and open this. And while I'm stirring and pouring this one, let's talk a little bit about more of your journey. What would you say was the lowest point in this journey of yours in entrepreneurship, and how did you manage to get yourself out of it? Like, what did you feel? What was happening? And how did you finally come out of it?
So one of my lowest points was 2016. I opened up a barbershop, and towards the end of our lease, when it's time to renew, we had some issues. I was going through some personal things on top of the fact we were having issues with our AC and the landlord. And looking back, the landlord was a true blessing. Was an amazing person to have as a temporary mentor.
And I bet you at the time you didn't feel that.
No, it was. I see where he was coming from, but when we closed down that shop, it was a very low point because I felt not only ashamed that I had failed, but I felt the judgment when there was really no judgment. And I learned at that point, that was one of those moments. I've always said failure is okay, and when I said failure is okay, I meant on small scales. That was 3 years of work, full investment. I'm talking about a beautiful shop, completely done.
You put a lot of money and time.
A lot of money and time. Gave up friends, family, everything, just to close it. And it made me realize like failure is completely okay, because if you did it once, you could do it again. That second time I did it, it was so much faster, so much more productive. And it's been a lesson continuously on how to not cut corners per se, but how to cut the fat and get straight to the point. And now when I'm talking to businesses, I'm able to give that advice because I've done it multiple times. Yeah. You know what I mean? I've done it from the clothing line to the screen printing, to the graphic design, to the barbering. And so my lowest point came when my investment came crashing down, and I had to be okay with it and move forward. Because I could have sat there, cried about it, gone to work at Amazon or Walmart and called it a wrap. But
not that there's anything wrong with those jobs. Hey, if you do what you got to do to pay the bills, but you had an aspiration and you had a goal.
I had to move forward. I couldn't call it quits.
You felt like you were on this bridge about to make it, and everything collapsed.
Yeah, I'm laughing because how quick you say that right now. But like you said, not that there's nothing wrong, but I could have easily gave up on the entire
dreams, yeah.
And I didn't. You know what I mean? And I'm so happy I didn't, because that really gave me insight on how strong I actually am, and mentally how much I've grown from when I started this journey.
Yeah, and you did mention something that I wanted to touch upon. You said you were afraid of people talking even though nobody was talking. And we tend to do this a lot. We make up scenarios in our head. We start putting voices to people, and we start talking crap to ourselves. Literally, we'll imagine somebody saying it to us, but in all reality, it's ourselves talking crap to us, and it's how we feel about ourselves. And most of the time, people out there, they're either cheering for us or they understand what happened. And honestly, I didn't hear anybody say anything bad about you closing your shop. Not one single person.
Amount of support I got when I went from having a 1,500 square foot shop for 3 years, shutting it down, to a 200 square foot studio, was amazing, because it truly showed it wasn't the business. It truly showed me that back to the content thing, that the content is so strong, the platform didn't matter.
The character in your case, because your character is something that appeals to a lot of people. You're friendly, You're talkative, you engage, you give advice. You're wise man, because you've been through a lot. I mean, you moved out at what, 16, 15?
16, yeah.
And you went through some hell and stuff. And
going through all that has given me such a chameleon aspect, to where I'm able to listen, mold, and to see that truly valued, and I haven't lost a client in a very long time. Some have moved, but to lose a client over something like that hasn't happened. It's shown me that what the value in what you provide is the key to any success.
Amazing. That's amazing advice right now. It's about making what you're offering valuable. And it's not just valuable such as gold because you found gold underground. It's about you making it valuable. If you have a passion for something, I'm sure you can find a way to sell that passion, right? I mean, where there's a will, there's a way.
Always.
Before this gets any warmer though, let's go ahead and give it the sniff test. Oh, so pretty similar to the first one, but a sweeter smell, I would say.
Yeah, it's a little softer.
A little like sweeter. Enough about the smell. Let's just go ahead and taste this thing.
Oh, that smells good too. The other one, I like the other one a little better.
Yeah. This I think it might be because it's a little bit warm. With sour beers, they need to be kept super cold. As soon as they start getting warm, they start getting a little, I wouldn't say tardy, more like metalish, like ironish in it.
Yeah.
Oxidized type
like
of taste.
like keeping a Coke in a can and drinking it.
Exactly. Okay, since we got that first drink out of the way, let's continue with the business. Is there anything you regret from this journey, or anything that you would change and you would have taken a different direction looking back at from the beginning? Like, is there still like something you wake up every day and you're like, if I would have just done this differently on this day 15 years ago, I would have been in a better position?
My so not regret, but if what I know would have put me in a better position is understanding money sooner. I've always been willing to take risks, but understanding the cash flow in the business is key to sustainability. If I would have got that in 2014 or even 2011, 2012 when I was in the clothing, when you have a cash flow in the business, you're able to consistently keep moving and take losses. It's almost like if you're at the gambling table, as long as you have a stockpile of chips, you can keep playing. And I was always the type to like get the chips and then like, okay, I'm gonna just bet everything in.
Yeah.
And I've learned like, no, you have to maintain the cash flow, maintain a reserve. What I'm really big on right now is educating people on creating your savings, from having your emergency to your bills to your actual savings plan, and separating everything into different forms. If I would have understood that 2011, I know it would have been an easier journey. Not a better journey per se, but it would have just took a little bit of stress off. Just that part of finance is so key. And I know a lot of kids start making money early and don't understand that financial part. Cash flow is key. Like, your business is worth zero if you don't have any cash flow in it.
Exactly.
Like, you cannot sell your business. Amazon's only worth that because the funds and keep spending.
Yeah, the value isn't in the idea, because lots of people think, well, I came up with this idea, so I should make money, or an invention, and I should. No, it comes from the work that you put behind it. You know, it doesn't just happen because it happens. I think you hit on a lot of amazing points. I think I want to hit on a few. If you can tell people a little bit about each of your strengths. You know, just like you do barbering, you do some photography, you do branding, you do logos. Tell our viewers one thing about each job that has taught you, a skill that has pushed you forward, or has gotten you to the point where you're at right now.
Okay, I'm gonna start with the main skill, right? So when someone asks me what my main skill is, my biggest skill is understanding human behavior. And I tell every entrepreneur that until you understand how important it is to study and understand what human behavior is, you're gonna keep failing because you're playing a guessing game instead of playing a data game. So when it comes to barbering, my biggest skill is my conversation. I'm able to provide a conversation that relaxes you completely and you're completely open, no judgment. And that is only because I can read the person and come in to where they need to be in their headspace. And that goes back to behavior. When it comes to the branding and creating a logo and an audience for certain companies, I understand what their audience wants and their behavior, and you want to be ahead of the behavior. You never want to be catching up. Yeah. And then when it comes to the photography and video, you got to understand the behavior of attention. So when I'm doing certain videos, I understand that emotion has to be drawn from not only your video, but your picture. And if we're talking social media, the picture has to draw enough emotion to get me to react to it. So not even to like it, nothing, just react to it. Have it stick to my head. And I can only get that through understanding how humans work and how my audience works. So if I told anyone right now, what skill sets should you work on? Study humans. As weird as that sounds, like, I make it a point, if I go to Starbucks, if I go to a bar, if I go eat, I'm people watching not to be weird, but because I want to understand how it works. Like, why is that guy being so loud? Okay, he's being loud because he has to do this. Why is that girl acting like this? Once you start putting these pieces together and using it for business, you're unstoppable because you're always ahead. Like coronavirus, what are people gonna do? Boom, boom, boom. What is that gonna lead to? This, that. And it puts you at such a high yield where you can't, not that you can't fail, because you can always fail, but you're almost foolproof in your fail. You're doing everything in your power to make sure you stay up there. So that's the main skill set in anything I do, is understanding behavior within our own species of humans.
And that's a lot different than what most of us would consider people watching, because I'm a person that loves to watch people. I love to listen to the way they talk. I like to listen or watch the way they move. I like to see where they're looking. But you're talking about using that data for business, not just to try to figure somebody out, but in order to be able to sell them something.
Exactly.
And that's a very good point. Because how are you going to sell something to somebody you don't know?
Exactly. So, like with video and marketing, right? The way I sell my services is I'm gonna tell you what you're doing wrong and why your audience isn't paying attention. And I can only tell you what your audience isn't paying attention to if I know what your audience is paying attention to. You know what I'm saying? So I have to watch. I study the attention span. Like it's the smallest things that'll lead to like an actual success. Because it at the end of the day, when it comes to marketing, right, it doesn't matter how many people saw it or this or that. What matters is actual engagement. If 1 million people saw it but only 10 people actually came to the business, that million is worthless. But if I could get 100 people to watch it and 100 people come, that data is completely valuable, and it lets me figure out the next step. The other big thing is I tell people is you only get good at this by practicing it, right? So I literally do exercises. Like I just had my kids start doing it, where I force conversations with strangers, and I just want to see how they react. So I'll say something, boom, boom, boom. Okay, I caught their attention like that. They opened up like this. They backed out like this. And I'll do this at the grocery store. I'll do this at Starbucks. I'll do this everywhere I go, at the gas station. And just the goal is to always break conversation. And I've gotten so good to where I'm not gonna get oh, can you back up? Because I've understood, okay, I think this guy is gonna take this well, so I'm gonna hit him on this point. Hey, those are some dope shoes, bro. Or, oh man, it's hot. Oh man, this world's getting crazy. Like these little things, if I can figure it out and be right every time, I'm understanding how to read a human very well. And a lot of times when you're starting, you're gonna be wrong. But the more and more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah. And that's what lots of people don't understand is everything in life takes practice. It takes taking the step and failing and learning what you did wrong so you don't make the same mistake again. Learning to see what works so you can apply that to the next step that you take. And lots of people want to see results right away. You know, I did 3 sit-ups and I expect a 6-pack right now.
Exactly.
Which actually takes me to the next point, because in order to make something happen, you got to invest into it. So for our last question of the night, and before we finish this beer off, how much time and money would you say you've invested, not in just your craft, but in overall your business entrepreneurship from day one? I mean, whether it was screen printing or barbering, how much time and money would you say you've invested?
As far as time, more time than most people spend on a single activity. I haven't watched TV, and I'm not exaggerating, right? Like I might have sat down for an episode, but I'm always doing something. I haven't watched TV in maybe 3 to 4 years. I haven't gone to a single family event in probably 7. But it's, as far as time, I've given 80 to 90% of my time into this. And as far as money, it's up there. The shop alone, the first time was total probably in the 60, 70. and then gear, the screen printing, we're looking at like $100K. I paid for a Harvard education with time and money.
Yeah,
so that makes sense.
And I mean, not to talk down on education, because I'm sure there's lots of downfalls that you had that had you gone to a class and learned about it, you would have avoided it. But nothing is better than experience and practice. So don't be afraid of failing. Don't be afraid of falling in the hole because you took a risk. I mean, you got to do it. You might make it, you might not, but you're going to learn from that, right?
If I had the chance to go get, I always tell people, if I had the chance to go get a financial marketing, I think you can learn yourself. There's always tips and tricks, but finance and understanding taxes and money and
the things we are never taught in school. We're taught about all different types of numbers and letters.
If I went to school just for that alone, it'd be worth so much because it's such a detrimental part. A lot of people have the talent, and then you see them lose everything because they don't have that financial knowledge. Yeah, which is the biggest part, I think, in my personal opinion. To succeed in business, you have to also understand finance tremendously. Like understand your taxes, understand what's a tax break, understand what laws apply to you and how you can cut corners and do that.
Cut corners, not in a cut quality or anything.
No. Cut corners as far as if I
try to learn it on your own,
or this is a great example, right? If I, from my house to work, go straight to work, it's a commuter mile, right? You don't get any tax break for a commuter mile. But if from my house to the gas station, I take that time to spend 15 minutes and pass out some business cards, it's now a business mile, which is fully deductible. And I get that money back. I'm able to deduct that in my taxes. And that's what I mean by cut corners is there's ways to grow your business and knowing when I can spend and how it's gonna
That's some good information right there. And
I'm not a tax expert.
No. Yeah. He is not a tax expert. We're not experts at anything, actually. We're just giving you guys our insight into how we got to where we are. Not that we're anywhere high, but I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. I'm pretty sure you're happy with where you're at. And I never thought I'd be here.
Never.
Did you? No. I mean, you just take the step, you take the leap, and you keep pushing forward is what it comes down to.
It's all about taking the risk, not caring. And at the end of the day, I emphasize this with so much strength. Do what the fuck you want. Do not let no one tell you can't do it. I've seen everyone break the rules and fucking make a humongous change. So always do what you want.
That's some amazing advice. So I think we'll leave it off there and we'll let that imprint on your brain. Do what you want. You want to tell them again? Tell it straight to the camera.
Do what you want.
Always and forever. Thank you for tuning in to our first episode in this series of Beers and Business. We had these two sours. How'd you like them?
I low-key love them.
Would you buy these again?
I would buy that one for sure.
The Cactus Atticus. This is a pretty good one. We picked this one up at Red Carpet Liquor, aka Red Carpet Wine and Spirits in Rancho Cucamonga, I think it is, right off of the 210 freeway. We go there a lot. They got a lot of craft beer selection. So I'd give them, since you're down there, I'd give them
a try.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll find something you like. Until next time, thank you very much for tuning in to this episode of Beers and Business and another episode of Beer Ventures. I hope you tune in to us next time. Thank you very much, man.